This is a guest essay by Von Cordell, the founder of Ionosphere Capital.
The Iranian regime has been running a protection racket on 90 million people for 47 years. The racket runs on oil from Kharg Island, a continental island of Iran in the Persian Gulf. China is the last paying customer. U.S. President Donald Trump has the sword positioned. The only question is whether he swings it, or walks away and hands the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps the time it needs to survive and rebuild. The Islamic Republic of Iran, as a theocratic institution capable of governing Iran, is finished. The supreme leader is dead. The succession is contested. The Legitimacy Foundation has no surviving figure with the religious authority to claim it. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as a functional, coercive apparatus capable of meaningful territorial control and domestic enforcement, is failing. The financial record confirms the revenue dependency. The cascading provincial payroll failure is already underway. The timeline is months, not years. The regime is a strategic threat capable of projecting military power, funding terrorism, and holding global energy flows hostage is destroyed. The Navy is gone. The Air Force is grounded. The missile arsenal is spent. The nuclear infrastructure is rubble. What remains is harassment capacity, not strategic power projection. If the U.S. takes control of Kharg Island, it controls the oil. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps does not get paid. China does not get its discounted crude. The regime's financial lifeline and Beijing's cheapest industrial feedstock end on the same day. Kharg Island handles 90% of Iranian crude exports, or approximately 1.3 to 1.5 million barrels per day. China buys approximately 90% of those exports, or roughly 1.4 million barrels per day. Iran needs the revenue to fund the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Basij, a paramilitary volunteer militia within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the proxy network. China needs the discounted crude, typically $10 to $15 below benchmark, to keep its teapot refineries running and its manufacturing costs low. Both depend on Kharg Island. Both lose when Kharg Island falls. That flow generates roughly $31 billion annually, or approximately 45% of the Iranian government's budget. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps controls up to 50% of those exports through front companies designed to mask its ownership and evade sanctions. 47% of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps military and security funding is paid in crude oil, not cash. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is not waiting for the government to appropriate funds. It is paying itself directly from the oil. Trump is simultaneously defunding the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and squeezing China's industrial economy. Russia loses its most capable diversionary front and its partner in sanctions evasion. All three lose when Kharg Island falls. The alternatives cannot cover the gap. Kharg Island, as well as nearby Lavan and Siri Islands, handle almost all Iranian crude exports. Jask, a port city in southern Iran, is still under construction and not proven as an operating substitute. Iran's shadow banking and covert oil networks move hundreds of millions annually, not the tens of billions Kharg Island provides. These alternatives cannot replace the primary export artery. The fiscal foundation was already collapsing before the first bomb fell on Iran on February 28th. The fiscal deficit projected at 4.2% of GDP, poverty rising to 38.8%, inflation moving above 50%, and the rial at 1.559 million per dollar, a 99.9955% collapse since 1979. That is not inflation. It is the financial record of 47 years of extraction. Without Kharg Island, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps can sustain core security operations in Tehran and a handful of major cities from non-oil revenue for an estimated 3 to 6 months. This timeline is an analytical estimate derived from confirmed revenue and expenditure data. No primary intelligence source has confirmed Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps cash reserves, or emergency funding mechanisms in the public record. The nationwide enforcement machine cannot be sustained simultaneously. The financial failure is not instantaneous. Provincial commands run out first. Tehran is last. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps cannot sustain its full coercive apparatus without Kharg Island revenue. The Praetorian Corps in Tehran survives for months. The nationwide enforcement machine does not. China loses its cheapest oil. Russia loses its best proxy. Trump defunds all three with one island. The Strait of Hormuz is the racket's latest revenue stream. Ships from China, India, Turkey, and Pakistan pay the toll and pass. Western and allied shipping gets blocked. One tanker paid a reported $2 million for a single approved transit. Iran's parliament is writing the extortion into law. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is not exercising sovereign maritime rights. It is running a protection racket on 20% of global seaborne oil through front companies, designed to mask its ownership and evade sanctions. China is not a neutral observer. It is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' last paying customer, the one keeping the lights on in Tehran and making the system financially viable. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps survives because of fear. The Basij beats protesters, executes dissidents, and monitors every communication. Proxies, assassins, and terror cells operate on every continent. China supplies the economic lifeline, buying discounted oil through shadow banking networks, while providing surveillance technology the regime uses to monitor its population. Russia supplies diplomatic cover, blocking UN Security Council resolutions and providing weapons and intelligence that extend the regime's reach beyond what its degraded military capacity could sustain. China and Russia actively kept the regime alive and dangerous. China's assistance was the most important and the most documented. Russia's assistance was narrower, but real. Russia supplied S-300 and S-400 air defense systems, provided technical support for Iran's missile and drone programs, and used its diplomatic weight at the UN to shield the regime from sanctions. Russia benefited from a distracted America and a weakened Gulf. Neither wants to help the regime now that it is broken. China's calculus is cold. It wants the discounted oil, not the regime. Once the regime can no longer deliver reliable barrels, Beijing will cut it loose. China has already begun rerouting purchases and reducing exposure. It will not send troops, advanced weapons, or open credit lines to prop up a losing side. Russia's calculus is the same. Vladimir Putin sees the collapsing regime as a sunk cost. Russia has already begun positioning for normalization with Trump, because a broken Iran no longer serves as a useful distraction. Moscow will not risk its own military or economy to save a partner that has already lost its navy, air defenses, and command layer. China needed the discounted oil. Russia needed the diversionary front. Both needed a regime that demonstrated U.S. power could be defied without consequences. That regime no longer exists. They are already positioning for the post-regime world. Kharg Island's seizure removes the financial foundation that keeps the fear machine running. When the payroll fails, the basage thins. When the basage thins, the streets open. When revenue is severed, the elite flight accelerates. When the Islamic Republic of Iran Army calculates that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is finished and breaks from it, the regime collapses. Kharg Island is the accelerant. The Islamic Republic of Iran Army is the trigger. The regime's social contract has always been the same: ideology for the poor, theft for the elite. The Basij foot soldiers, beating protesters in the streets, live below the poverty line. The commanders giving the orders own villas in Dubai and properties in Majorca. The Shamkhani family, led by Ali Shamkhani, an Iranian naval officer and politician who also served as the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, assembled $29 million in Dubai real estate under Caribbean passports. Mojtaba Khamenei maintains a global property empire in London, Dubai, Frankfurt, and Majorca. Capital flight in the hundreds of millions to billions has been documented by the U.S. Treasury and the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project in recent weeks alone. The people with the most to lose are moving their money out. The nonprofit organization United Against Nuclear Iran confirmed 11 oil loadings from Kharg Island since the war began, generating over $1 billion for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, while the air campaign raged around it. The machine is still running. It stops when Kharg Island stops. The elite have already voted with their wallets. The foot soldiers have already voted with their feet, with desertion rates rising as confirmed by the Institute for the Study of War and Critical Threats. The Islamic Republic of Iran army is watching and waiting. Protesters are filming Basiji positions and sending the coordinates to U.S. and Israeli contacts. The regime is not being destroyed from the outside, it is collapsing from within. The war is the accelerant. Kharg Island is the kill switch. Thus, four conditions must converge simultaneously for the regime to fall. First, Kharg Island must be seized and its revenue severed. Israel continues hunting and killing Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps leadership faster than replacements can be trained and positioned. The Islamic Republic of Iran army breaks from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The regular army is a conscript force that has never been ideologically loyal to the revolution and is already showing fracture lines. The provincial payroll fails and the Basij thins from the outside in. Remote garrisons first, Tehran last. None of those conditions exist if Trump stops short. All four are within reach if he does not. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operates a 31-province mosaic command structure, specifically designed for decapitation scenarios. Each provincial command has pre-delegated launch authority and autonomous operational capability. This is documented Iranian doctrine developed over 2 decades. The architecture was built for exactly the conditions that now exist: elimination of central leadership, sustained air bombardment, and severed communications. The decentralized system absorbed the decapitation and retaliated. But the mosaic was not designed for insolvency. Decapitation removes the commanders, insolvency removes the payroll. A provincial command that loses its commander can promote the next officer in line. A provincial command that cannot pay its Basij enforcers cannot replace them with ideology alone. When the paycheck stops, the checkpoint's empty. The mosaic is resilient against targeted killing of leadership. It is not resilient against simultaneous payroll failure across all 31 provincial commands. The outer commands thin first. The inner commands follow. Tehran is last. The USS Tripoli and USS Boxer are heading toward the Gulf of Oman. The Tripoli arrives late March, carrying 2,500 Marines with F-35Bs, MV-22S, and attack helicopters. The Boxer follows in early to mid-April with 2,500 more Marines, heavy armor, and full well-deck logistics. The Pentagon has ordered approximately 1,000 to 3,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division to deploy to the theater. That is enough to seize Kharg Island, hold it, and wait for the financial clock to run the regime out of money. The process looks like this: clear the coastal threat zones around the Strait of Hormuz, suppress the air defenses, establish persistent overwatch, clear the mines from the approach lanes, seize Kharg Island, sever the revenue, and let Israel keep hunting the leadership. Then let the payroll fail, and let the Islamic Republic of Iran army decide. Political pressure in Washington is the only thing that can save the regime now. Votes on congressional war powers, managed consensus reports, calling the operation a suicide mission. AI systems trained to produce diplomatic framing instead of blunt assessment. European governments protecting their 2015 nuclear deal investments. China protecting its oil supply, all converging on one outcome: stop Trump before Kharg Island falls.